I wanted to do a little post mortem on Eric Weinstein's little project, and just take it and talk about it a little bit, because those would be my little solutions. Would that you could the coalition voting and stuff like that, but also just describe what it was, because it's an ingenious idea, and I'm thinking about writing these. I have all these essays that are like projects that could help out, everything from like a selective service that would get kids into apprenticeships, to nuclear power, to how to get rid of the military industrial complex, all kinds of crap that I've just considered on my own. I'm not any expert, I'm just on the side. I just don't know if there's I'm like karmically, I'm a Buddhist. I don't think controlling people is what you need to be doing in life. I honestly think it's sickening. It needs to be done, but you see what happens in Washington, D.C. Controlling people for the point of just controlling them, rather than an actual community kind of thing of like, I want to help my neighbors out. The feeling of helping and controlling, because there's two different things. I think people get into it wanting to help, and then they end up getting a taste of power and they just want to control. So, anyway, that's what I would remove. Our paywall. Article left. Okay, so what we got today on the box is a article from the National Review, and it is a right-wing site. Now, I would say Truth has a right-wing bent, and why I would say that, in debate and media and everything, the right analyzes what the left does. Most of the right is actually clipping stuff from the left, and not like, dude, all the sources are cited. I watch guys who are both on the left and the right in my cell, like Jimmy Dore. I'll watch it. On the right, I got a bunch of people, and on the left. But that's the thing, is that there's misinformation. It's all misinformation. And my theory is that the CIA is actually coordinating the propaganda effort, because, and it's funny that anything the Democrats are screeching about, they're just projecting. And it's ridiculous, because it's just ad hominem, and it's just like, but it's also infuriating when you're a kid and this happens to you, right? Like somebody, like, somebody rips ass and blames it on you, or, your little brother. I had a brother growing up, so, and I still have a brother. I love him very much, but he disagrees with me on politics. But, if he would do something and then blame me for it or something, it's like, it's just infuriating, because hypocrisy is ingrained in us, just people, their actions and their words. And we're always reconciling the two as we know people, you're always thinking, okay, how much can I, really, it's the thing of trust, in a survival situation, which humans are geared for. You're thinking, can I trust this person if the shit goes down? And if somebody's words don't match up with their actions, it's trouble. So, the Uni 2020 ticket, an interview with Brett Weinstein. I'm looking at, dude. All right, so the evolutionary biologist wants to abolish the two-party system to save the republic from its discontents. Our national conversation has become a battleground where clashing worldviews, frustrations, and experiences collide. But Brett Weinstein, an evolutionary biologist who came to national attention during the protests at Evergreen State College who came to national attention during the protest. Okay, that was a typo. Okay, yeah, they said protest right here and protest right there. In 2017. The two-party system shoulders the bulk of the blame. He recently blamed Unity 2020, a proposal to free the republic from the grip of what he calls our public duopoly. Anyway, so below is National Review's conversation with Mr. Weinstein, which has been edited. So what you have here, okay, here says an outline of his policies. Most of us has noticed that our republic is in jeopardy. Our parties have failed us, pervasive corruption has permeated our political system, and the American Republic has been frozen out of the productivity and prosperity that they have created through their labor. This state of affairs has generated a sense of disenchantment, which we see materialize in our streets. People are angry, and rightly so. Unfortunately, large-scale protests may reveal the depth of public frustrations, but unstructured outpourings of genuine anger are too easily co-opted by careless politicians. Yes, and this is done on both sides in the emotional context. But dude, the last 2 years, the Democrats really, since Trump came into power, because they had an unholy alliance with both Antifa and BLM. They're sitting out here saying Antifa is only an idea, as if it's like some, it's like, it reminds me of J. Edgar Hoover denying the mafia existed, and all of a sudden, they're not so much an idea, but they're like really people who have this idea or this system, and they certainly do exist, and they're a destructive force. And that, I think, if you have a paramilitary force that is mirroring a political, party in total parody, as if it's like, that they're taking marching orders, it begins to look a little sketchy. And the fact that the Democrats refused to criticize the Antifa movement at all, or even say it exists. And then BLM was violent as shit, and it was chaos, and it's because the people who created BLM are Marxist revolutionaries, and they say this much. I'm about to do an analysis on them too today. Probably me wearing the same shirt in the video. It probably won't get, and it's not going to get edited and released the same day, but it was meant to be a Marxist revolution. It was meant to be Marxist dialectics of white people against BIPOC. That's always what it is. It's this, and what I mean by Marxist dialectics is it's us against you. And what Brett Weinstein, he's a lefty. I don't know if I'm sure he actually talks about this with woke politics. He knows about this. I've heard him talk about this shit. But that is really corrosive. And it's, because the real shitty thing about it is the people who are grandstanding about this stuff, wealthy black media moguls and sports players, and the whole upper class black folk who are buying into this and talking to other black people and telling them basically, hey, America doesn't love you, like basically telling black people there's no point in trying. And then in the public school system, we're telling black kids you don't need to do standardized tests. That's white supremacy and all this stuff. Well, white people aren't the only ones who are succeeding at it. So what does that tell you? Is that's what I would say is, like, white people aren't the only ones. It's basically everybody else in black Americans. So is it maybe some behavior in black America that we could remedy black people, the conditions that black people are experiencing? But we can't have that conversation because the Democrats want to use that rather than we need to make a corrective and really help these people. Their way of doing it is, let's more discontent, the worse it gets in the black neighborhood, the better it is for Democrats. That's what they're doing. Yeah, go ahead and burn down your neighborhood, because you know what? You're going to need the government. Because that is people being self-reliant is just, it's an aberration to somebody who's a socialist. You need the government. You need to need the government. That's what they're telling you. They just, are honest about it very little. How Uni 2020 plans to end the two-party system, bring back Andrew Yang. Get rid of Andrew Yang when you're thinking about this article. Well, Andrew. Okay, so, and it talks about Brett Weinstein, how he was talking about this on the, Joe Rogan Experience. And Weinstein, he suggested at the time, like we were seeing the other article, Andrew Yang and Admiral William McRaven. I would assume that he's somebody on the right, but what my ticket would be Trump and Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat who is pro 2A and pro 1A, because that's all Tulsi. Tulsi is the Democrats a la 2009, 2010, when Harry Reid was the majority leader and minority leader for a great gulf of time. Harry Reid was he's trying to expose the UFO shit. I mean, he was a dude. He was a transparency guy, and he was a solid libertarian lefty, and would stand for free speech of somebody who he disagreed with. And that used to be the modus operandi. And then socialism started coming as Obama, his presidency wore on to the point where, and then this BLM faction, that's the thing. I think Obama has always been a guy who had far left sympathies. I mean, and even radical black nationalist allies. If you don't understand the Nation of Islam's ideology, I think you should go down that rabbit hole and then know that Obama was down with that. And maybe I'll end up doing an NOI. I mean, it is rough. It was rough. I mean, like aliens and a eugenicist that created the white devil in a lab 600 years ago by a man named Yaqub. Yeah, and I've debated those points with a guy who's a Nation of Islam follower in prison, and I was like, "Are you fucking serious?" I was like, "Dinosaurs weren't real. Everything was a big goddamn conspiracy." But what that was an attempt to have a revisionist history, much like the 1619 Project is, of no, this is what happened because black people were like, "Yo, we're good people. There's no way that we could have been the loser on this end of the deal," and our people sold us into it. So you got to create a whole false narrative around that because, it's a whole nother rabbit hole. But, Obama was down with that. And he's down with a lot of socialist shit. And I think as that's worn on, because the BLM, the fact that a American president was backing people who were saying they're socialist revolutionaries is already startling. And then today we get Mark Milley talking about how he wants to know what white rage is, which is like a complete but neo-Marxist kind of thing. I mean, literally the memes with him with like purple hair saying that kind of shit is literally, that's like sophomore year, during your lesbian phase of college. I mean, come on now. And I've interacted with all this stuff. There's really not much there. It's crap. Okay. But it starts off with the Americans are rigid, yada, yada, yada. They were rigid. And his intellectual dark web, that went away when Sam Harris became, because you have to have a rational break to be a leftist. Because, it requires... Because rationality will always end you up in objectivism territory, where it's, no. The best things about humanity are the things like self-reliance, freedom, all the, and hard work, enterprise. I could go on. Free trade, all this goofy shit. That's not so goofy. It's literally the bedrock of what's made Western civilization so kick-ass. And it did come from Europe. That doesn't mean it's a white man's invention. It means it's a human invention that happened to come from Europe. It's there for all of us to enjoy. 2020 plan would work. According to a Medium post titled and you can probably see what this is. This is literally I had a shirt that said Twitler. And I found it, and I put it up. That's how much I hated Trump. And I found it, and I had it deep down in my shit. And I was like, oh, okay, I found this shit. That's how much I used to hate Trump. And he converted me. I've had that shirt since 2000, I think probably when I got out of jail. I bought it because I had no clothes when I got out of federal prison. But, okay. We the people draft 2 candidates, one from the center left and one from the center right. Once elected, they agree to govern as a team. All decisions and appointments will be made jointly in the interest of the American public. Only when they cannot reach agreement or when a decision does not allow for consultation does the president decide independently. A coin flip determines which candidate runs at the top of the ticket. That's pretty cool. You see, the one thing is that you might have somebody who would impeach, or the party would try to impeach. That's the thing. If you have a center left and a center, like Tulsi Gabbard is a solid fucking American, and that's the type of person. She's a one and only though. No, I don't want to say that. There's some people, but the problem is when they end up in the Senate or the House, like with the filibuster thing. I elected in Colorado John Hickenlooper, and yeah, that's who I voted for in 2020. The man has been a rubber stamp. Supposedly, I don't see it. Here's the thing: I don't know if it came down to a vote, because that's the thing. They talk about blowing up the filibuster, but when it actually comes down to it, would he do it? But he hasn't come out and said shit about it. It's just and when he was a Colorado governor, was a dude. He was a centrist guy. I mean, because he was a brewery owner, and he took part in this whole like renovation and. Really, it was a gentrification of the 5 Points area, which is like known. The actual name of it was the Negro District. Flip out, but that was the name of it. And it was like a thriving community until the 1960s, and then just nosedived. And then him and a bunch of these business owners in the late 90s, after it got really violent in the early 90s, were part of this like rebuild the city. And then Denver politics have gotten farther and farther left as more lefties come here from other places so they can smoke good weed and eat legal mushrooms. Mushrooms are legal here too. So neither here nor there. Each candidate must possess 3 qualities. They must be patriotic, they must be highly capable, and they must be courageous. That is badass. That post doesn't mention how these qualities would be defined or who would judge prospective candidates. Now, Andrew Yang, he's not, well, he's patriotic, highly capable, yeah, being a limp wrist, the courageous. So he's not a 3. Just because oh my God, he bent the knee so bad lately with Joe Rogan. After, we're sitting here reading about, this is not that long ago, this is 2 years ago. And he already, look at that. Oh no, that's Brett Wayne. Yeah, Andrew Yang did a podcast though with Joe Rogan. And then he, well, I have to reevaluate my friendship. Like, nobody needs you as a friend, Andrew. Let me tell you. But the post doesn't mention how these qualities would be defined or who would judge prospective candidates. After 4 years in office, the order reverses for the next election, the post reads. This continues until the American public chooses an alternative administration or one of the members of the team cannot run for re-election, at which point a new patriot would replace them. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. Until the public chooses. That would be pretty dope, because here's the thing, is that so it would be an 8-year term. Because I feel like 4 years isn't that much of a time. You could elect, and like he's saying, an election is held in 4 years, but I don't think as much emphasis should be placed on it. Because remember, Trump didn't even get a term in office, if we're being wholly honest about the thing, because he had this Russiagate thing that was completely sapping him, and he lost his Congress because of the propaganda mission that was being launched against him. If you actually look at his he actually moderated it off of a lot of it, because he was going to do the travel ban thing, and it got restricted. But it wasn't about being Muslim or anything. It was just these countries that we have out and out animosities with, and there's no good way of vetting somebody who's coming in, like who's claiming asylum or anything like that, or an immigrant. So, but he moderated, and and never tried to hold anybody down for saying shit about him. And people were saying out and out lies and about him. And we found this all out, dude. Everything they said about Trump was absolute horse shit. I feel bad for the man, dude. He didn't get he didn't get his term at all. He got robbed. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But who would fit that bill? Yeah. And so that's his manifesto. And I like that. I like that he made it succinct and short. I think that it was doomed from the start. Not just because of the fact that it was a hashtag, which is funny, but the fact that it was fundamentally flawed in the fact that it's acting as if it's operating in a vacuum. First of all, you got to get the voting on it, because you wouldn't win an election if you can't have half the electorate. You need to have half of the electorate to win the election in our republic system, because you just need, like, it literally only function as a two-party. That doesn't mean that it can't change, because you, like I said, you could have a coalition government, and how that would work is that the Republican, the Libertarian Party, you could also create a center-left party, or a break away from the Democrats, like the moderates break away from the socialists, and they could vote with the Republican side as well, and that's the thing, you would ask for basically a job of, like they were saying, a coin flip, but it would be one of the main jobs, like the Speaker of the House, or the Vice Presidency, or the Presidency, or a place in the cabinet. But I think all governance should be done at the state level. And I think that's doable, because if you actually look at it, and that doesn't mean that you would just like strike down those resources. You could house some of those resources in each state. But basically defund the federal government and then pass a law that every state has to have some type of, enforcement on a bunch of different levels. And that could be getting together with an interstate compact. That could be a task force kind of arrangement, where what I mean by that is, like in law enforcement, this is actually how it works, is that every state has their own district, their federal district. And in those districts, you have field agents that are posted to that district under an agent in charge, or special agent in charge, I think is how it's referred. But they're housed in that district, and they generate cases and investigate two cases that are posted there. But they can go to other districts if they're pulled in, and that's why they'll say, oh, he's called 1,000 FBI agents or whatever the hell. They're just coming in from other parts of the country where they're posted as field agents. And so you could basically just create, a border task force. So, California basically kicked them out of the union. Give them an ultimatum. Like, you got to get rid of all this socialist shit. But here's the thing. I think that would go away if the state had to pay for their own shit. Because the reason why California is spending the way they are is because they believe and they know, and they're right to assuming this, is that there would be a federal government over top of them that would change or that would, add money in their coffers, like bail them out, send them extra resources, all this. But if a state had to create a budget and it had to be solvent, and they wouldn't be given shit to illegal immigrants, because they would have to figure out a way to just green card them, because they would have to be able to get taxes from them. That would be the way it would work. And then they would be vetting them, and then they would be responsible for whoever they were, and they would actually be looking at these people's background instead of just saying, yeah, go ahead. And mind you, I've smuggled people in this country, so that's something I can actually talk about from definitely personal experience. But the federal government, there could be state level organizations, whereas like the EPA, you could have like a state the size of Colorado could have maybe like 50 people in the field and a 100-person office, and they could work with a reciprocity agreement in all the other states. Whatever it is, a state parallel, and that it can also allocate resources way more better. And as far as like homeless people, you'd actually have a stake in helping homeless. Everything is better, and when it's done at a lower level. And that's the crazy thing, is we've gotten decentralized with everything else because of technology, but our government is still this gigantic, ginormous, very, very corrupt and just garbage institution. And anything they try to do, they fuck up. And the best government, and I'm going to read civil disobedience on this channel here in a second today, but the best government is a government that governs the least. And I firmly believe that. So, and it's, yeah, because government just needs to ensure property rights. And, yeah, there can be help. I was a Democrat for years. The government should be there to help, but not hurt. And really, that's part of the social contract. You help somebody up so they can get up and start walking themselves, right? And not just to make them completely incompetent and then basically foster some kind of abusive, what is that, codependent relationship, which is what people have with the federal government. Is that they need them, but they resent them, and, they think they're white supremacy, and yet they vote for more of it, and it doesn't make any sense. So, anyway, that was a longer than usual antisocial contract. I just rap about a subject. This is particularly like social and political and how it meets in the middle. And that's what we need to do, is meet in the middle. And, but I'm not in favor of like a third party kind of thing. I would just say either we could do a coalition thing like that, but the Democratic Party is garbage. There's there's only like 3 of them left. Well, no, there's Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin and Tulsi Gabbard, and maybe a few that yeah, I can't even think of anybody, but there's guys like Jimmy Dore who are left libertarians, but mind you, they're becoming less and less because the next generation is they're straight Marxists, dude, and they're looking to instill what I would call racial Marxism. They just want to reverse Jim Crow, is what they want to do. And they make no buts about that. And that is, I can tell you, just because it's a majority white country, that's going to start some type of civil war, race war, even worse. That sounds horrible. So, we don't need to do that. But, anyway, like and subscribe. My name's Jay Krupka. Talk to you honest about whatever the hell I'm talking to you about. And, yeah. And I have a Substack. And it's under my name. You can find there too, but Big Brother Holding Company. And you can support if you want, or just read for free. But yeah, anyway, talk to y'all soon.
We've proven what we can do when we work together. So I urge Democrats and Republicans to get this done with urgency. Let's stand united. Let's continue to pull together. Let's get this done. Thank you, and God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. And now I'm going to get my second booster shot. I'm not sure why I'm doing it on stage. I have to do it again.